Welcome back. Today, I want to start with a visual that I think is going to resonate with pretty much everyone.
Okay.
Picture a construction site. You've got the noise, the dust, the trucks, but imagine for a second that there are no blueprints.
Oh, wow.
Just a bunch of contractors showing up, throwing bricks in a pile, pouring cement wherever they feel like it, and just hoping that eventually it turns into a skyscraper.
That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You'd end up with a pile of rubble
Exactly.
or, a structure that just collapses the moment the wind blows.
Right. It would be total chaos. You would never walk past a 30-story building and think, wow, what a lucky coincidence that all those bricks landed that way.
No, of course not. There was an architect. Someone drew a line on paper long before a single shovel ever hit the ground.
But here's the kicker, and this is really why we are here today. Life is no different. And yet most of us, and I'm including myself in this, we try to build a life without a plan. We wake up, we react to emails, we react to our moods, the news, and we just hope that it all adds up to character or success.
And then we're surprised when the whole thing collapses under a little bit of stress.
Exactly.
It's the accidental life.
Yeah.
We just drift into our identities instead of actually designing them. And today, we're going to look at how to stop that. We're talking about the architecture of you.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So we're going to be looking at part 7 of Charles F. Hanel's The Master Key System. But as always, we're not just sticking to one book.
Right.
To really get this concept of the architect, we're bringing in a whole crew. We've got Aristotle on the mechanics of habit. We've got the Stoic Seneca, Epictetus on how to stop drifting.
And some fascinating modern psychology on how the brain actually processes identity.
It feels a bit like we're hosting a dinner party across time, doesn't it?
It does. We have a businessman from 1912 St. Louis, a Greek philosopher, a Roman emperor, and a modern neuroscientist. I'm just hoping they all get along.
Oh, I think they'll get along famously because they're all pointing at the exact same truth.
Which is?
They're all looking at the relationship between the ideal, which is your blueprint, and character, which is the actual building.
Text overlay. The ideal is your mental blueprint.
And the mission for this conversation is to move away from vague wishing. You know the type.
Oh, I do. I wish I was more disciplined, or I wish I didn't get so angry in traffic.
Right. That isn't a plan. That is a daydream.
Right.
We want to move toward what you could call mental engineering.
I love that term, mental engineering. It sounds technical, but it also sounds doable. It takes the magic out of it.
And that's the point. This isn't magic. Hanel's very clear about that. It isn't about sitting on a couch and manifesting a Ferrari.
Right.
It's about the practical psychology of attention, habit, and identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with this concept of the ideal. Now, I have to be honest, when I hear that word, my brain goes to something floaty.
Sure. Unattainable.
Yeah, like Plato's forms or some utopian perfection that doesn't exist in the real world. Is that what Hanel is talking about?
Not at all. And this is a really important distinction to make right up front.
Okay.
In part 7, Hanel distinguishes between idealization and daydreaming.
Hmm?
And most people think they're idealizing when they're actually just daydreaming.
What's the difference?
Daydreaming is passive. It's an escape. It's letting your mind wander to a fantasy land where everything is perfect, you're rich, you're fit, you're happy.
But there's no connection to your current reality.
None at all. It's basically a drug. It just numbs you to the present.
It's like scrolling through social media and wishing you had someone else's vacation. You look at the picture, you feel that little pang of desire, and then you just keep scrolling. Nothing changes.
Exactly. And that dissipates your energy. It actually makes you weaker because you're spending all your mental capital on a fantasy.
Okay, so what's idealization then?
Idealization is active. It is the architectural phase. Hanel uses that architect metaphor explicitly. He says, look at the architect. He doesn't just hope the building will stand up.
He visualizes the end result first.
He sees the 30-story building complete in his mind. But he doesn't just see the wow factor. He sees the height, the materials, the load-bearing walls. He sees the design. It's a specific, rigorous visualization of what will be built.
So in plain English, the ideal is just what you admire, what you choose, what you aim to embody.
Yes, it's a chosen inner standard. It's you sitting down and saying, this is who I am, before the evidence actually exists.
Now, this is where I usually get a little skeptical. This sounds a lot like fake it till you make it or just positive thinking. Is there any actual science to back this up? Because it sounds a bit like we're just tricking ourselves.
It's less about tricking yourself and more about training yourself. And yes, there is hard science here. This connects perfectly to something called the identity value model.
Tell me about that.
So researchers, a team led by Hal Hershfield, wanted to figure out why people are so bad at doing things that are good for their future selves. Like saving for retirement or eating healthy.
Because the future feels so far away and the donut is right here.
Precisely. So they used fMRI scans to look at people's brains. They found that when people thought about their current selves, a specific part of the brain lit up, the medial prefrontal cortex.
The me center.
Basically, yeah. But when they asked people to think about themselves 10 years from now, that part of the brain went dark.
It went dark.
It looked almost exactly the same as when they thought about a total stranger.
Wow.
So, biologically speaking, your future self is a stranger to you. You don't know him, you don't care about him. So why would you save money for a stranger?
Or skip the cake for a stranger. That makes so much sense. That's why it feels like a sacrifice.
Exactly. But here's the mental engineering part. They had participants interact with a vivid, digital rendering of their future selves, literally an aged avatar that looked and moved like them.
And the brain activity changed.
It did. The self center started to light up for the future version.
So they bridged the gap.
They bridged the gap, and the behavior followed. The people who saw that vivid ideal of their future self were willing to put more than twice as much money into a retirement account.
Twice as much, just by seeing a picture.
Just by making the ideal vivid, by connecting the I of today with the I of the future, the brain suddenly says, oh, saving this money isn't a loss, it's a gift to me.
It changes the whole calculation of value.
That's the inner standard. It creates a filter for decision-making. If your ideal is, I am an athlete, and you're offered a donut or a run, the decision doesn't require willpower.
It just requires checking the blueprint.
Right. Does a donut fit the design? No. Does a run fit the design? Yes. The decision is made by the ideal.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, having a blueprint isn't enough. We all know people who are great at planning. They have the vision boards, the journals.
The Pinterest account's full of ideal homes and bodies.
Exactly. But they're still stuck. You can have the best blueprints in the world, roll them up, put them in a tube, and just sit in an empty lot forever.
And that is the tragedy of so many lives. We have the plan, but we never pour the concrete. And that brings us to the second pillar of this deep dive, character.
If the ideal is the plan, character is the building.
Correct. And to really understand character, we have to go back to the master of ethics himself, Aristotle.
He had that famous line, right? We are what we repeatedly do.
That's the popular paraphrase, yeah.
Yeah.
It gets the essence. But what he actually argues in the Nicomachean Ethics is even more nuanced. He argues that virtues aren't feelings, they're skills.
Skills.
Yeah, he compares them to crafts. He says, men become builders by building and lyre players by playing the lyre.
It sounds so simple, but we miss it all the time. We think we become builders by reading books about architecture.
Or we think we become writers by buying a nice notebook.
Or by waiting until we feel like builders.
And Aristotle says no. That's completely backward. You become just by doing just acts. You become brave by doing brave acts. The action comes before the trait.
You have to lay the brick to be the bricklayer.
There's a fascinating linguistic thing in the Greek that the source material pointed out that I think really explains the mechanism here.
Okay, lay it on me.
So in Greek, the word for habit is ethos with a short e. And the word for character is ethos with a long e.
They sound almost the same.
They do, and Aristotle points out that this is not an accident. Character is just habit that has taken root.
Can you give us an analogy for that?
Sure. Think of it like a hiking trail in the woods. The first time you walk through the brush, that's ethos, the short E. You're hacking through vines, you're stumbling. It's hard work.
You have to be really conscious of where you're putting your feet.
Exactly. That's the initial habit. But if you walk that same path every single day for a year, what happens?
It becomes a path. The dirt gets packed down.
The dirt gets packed down. The vines stop growing back. It becomes a permanent path. That's ethos, the long E. Character is just the road you've walked often enough to pave.
That's a great image. So character is crystallized habit.
The source material calls it a stable equilibrium of the soul. I mean, think about that phrase, stable equilibrium. It means you're not easily knocked over.
Right.
If you're honest only when it's easy, that's not character. That's just convenience. Character is when honesty is so practiced, so repeated, that it becomes your default state.
So in plain English, character is repeated choices. It's practiced responses. It's integrity under pressure.
Text overlay. Character is a habit, not an accident.
And that's the key, isn't it? Character is a habit, not an accident. You don't find yourself, you build yourself.
Precise.
But if building character is just about repetition, if it's just about walking that path, why is it so hard? Why do most of us feel like we're just walking in circles?
Because of the drift.
The drift. This is the enemy.
Hegel talks about this, and the Stoics talk about this constantly. Drift is what happens when you don't have a blueprint. When you don't have an ideal, you don't stop moving. You just move in whatever direction the wind is blowing.
And the wind is usually just our moods.
Exactly. And that's the first form of drift, living by moods.
I feel this one deeply. I don't feel like working out today. I feel like eating the whole pizza. I feel annoyed, so I'm going to snap at my partner.
Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, describes this perfectly. He says we are hurried away by impressions. An impression is just a feeling, a flash of desire or a flash of anger.
And if you don't have a standard, an ideal, to check that feeling against,
You just obey it. You become a slave to the weather of your own emotions,
and the weather changes every 10 minutes. 1 minute it's sunny, the next it's raining.
which creates a life that goes in circles. Today you're excited, so you work hard. Tomorrow you're tired, so you quit. You're building a wall one day and knocking it down the next.
You never get above the foundation.
The second form of drift is copying others.
This is huge, especially today.
If you haven't defined your own ideal, you will unconsciously adopt the ideal of the people around you. Epictetus calls this the mob.
Now, when he says mob, he doesn't mean a riot in the streets.
No, he just means the general consensus of society. Your neighbors, your colleagues, the people on your social media feed.
The keep up with the Joneses mentality.
Right. If your neighbor buys a new car and you feel that pang of envy and suddenly you want a new car, that's drift. You didn't plan for that car, you didn't want it yesterday.
You're just drifting into someone else's blueprint.
Right. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That is a painful truth.
And we do it because we haven't done the architectural work for ourselves.
And the third form of drift.
Inconsistency. The double standard.
This one came from the source discussing the temple versus the world.
Yes. It describes the person who acknowledges virtue when they're in a specific setting, say a church, a temple, even a yoga studio.
Right. In that space, they're kind, they're charitable, they're humble, they feel good.
They've got their Sunday best personality on.
Exactly.
But as soon as they walk out the door, as soon as they get into a business meeting or get back home, they're ruthless, or they cheat on their taxes, or they yell at their family.
So they have a blueprint for Sunday, but no blueprint for Monday.
And that breaks trust with yourself. You cannot build a stable character on a cracked foundation. You're fighting a civil war inside your own head.
Text overlay. Moods change. Standards stay.
That's the takeaway. Moods change. Standards stay. So we've got the ideal, we've got character, and we have the enemy drift. Now for the how.
Yes. How do we actually move from the blueprint to the building?
Hanel and our other sources lay out a very clear four-step method.
Okay, let's walk through it practically. Step 1. Define the ideal.
And you must use simple words. This is where people get tripped up.
They try to write a corporate mission statement for their soul.
Please, no. I want to leverage my synergies to maximize wellness potentials. No. Simple, primal words. I am dependable. I am calm. I am brave.
You need a word you can summon in the heat of battle.
Right. When you're stressed, your brain can't process a paragraph. It can process one word.
Okay. Step 2. Choose the behavior.
This is crucial. An ideal is abstract. Courage is just an idea. You can't just be courage.
You have to make it concrete.
You have to identify the specific action that proves the ideal.
So if the ideal is courage, the behavior might be speaking up in the meeting when I disagree.
Perfect. If the ideal is health, the behavior might be drinking water instead of soda at lunch. You have to bridge the gap between the concept and the physical world.
Text overlay. Action proves the ideal.
Without that action, the ideal is just a ghost.
Step 3. Repetition.
And this goes right back to Aristotle and our neural pathways. The brain reinforces what it repeats. Every time you perform the behavior, you're literally thickening the neural cable that makes that behavior easier next time.
There's that story about Edwin Moses, the hurdler.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Edwin Moses, unbeatable for a decade. He won 122 consecutive races.
122. That's just unheard of.
It's pure domination.
Yeah.
And when they asked him his secret, he didn't say, I have better shoes or I have better genetics. He said, I have a greater ability to tolerate pain than others.
That's the repetition.
That's the grind. He repeated the behavior of pushing through pain so many times that became his character. It was his stable equilibrium. He wasn't deciding to be fast on race day. He was just being who he had built himself to be.
And finally, step 4, remove contradictions.
This is the hard work Handel talks about. He says you must remove the contradiction. This means you have to stop doing the things that cancel out your standard.
It's like trying to build a brick wall while someone else is stealing bricks from the bottom.
Exactly. If your ideal is health, but you keep the contradiction of junk food in the pantry, you are canceling out your own effort.
If your ideal is focus, but you leave your phone notifications on,
That's a contradiction. You have to ruthlessly clear the job site. You cannot serve two masters.
okay, let's make this real. We have 3 practical examples of how this plays out. Let's start with work.
Okay. Let's say the ideal is being dependable. That's our blueprint.
And the drift. What does the drifting employee look like?
The drift is reactivity. Hanel describes the poor office man who blames luck. He says, if I fail, it's because the boss hates me. If I'm poor, it's the economy.
He waits for inspiration or favorable conditions.
Right. He only works hard when he feels motivated.
With a jerk. Back
The practice is finishing the task regardless of how you feel. It's looking at the blueprint which says dependable and ignoring the mood which says bored. It's the professional mindset. You show up, you do the job.
Text overlay. Dependability beats reactivity.
Every single time.
Okay, example 2, relationships. This is a big one.
Let's say the ideal here is being respectful and clear.
And the drift.
Defensiveness. We've all been there. Someone insults you, critiques your work, or maybe your partner just says something in a tone you don't like.
The drift is that immediate flare of anger.
Epictetus says, if someone says something we disagree with, something inside us tells us we have to argue with them.
We feel like we have to win.
We do. But the practice is the Stoic pause. It's taking that split second, that tiny gap between the stimulus and the response, to say, wait, my ideal is respect. Screaming back is not respectful, therefore I will not scream.
It sounds robotic, but when you actually do it, it feels like a superpower.
It's the ultimate freedom. You're free from the impulse. You're responding, not reacting.
Text overlay. Respect is a chosen response. Example 3, habits.
Let's go with being disciplined.
The drift is being impulsive.
Right. The cookie example.
Yeah.
If there's a plate of cookies in front of us, we have to eat them because they're there.
Yeah.
That's the logic of a drifting animal. I see, I want, I take.
And the practice.
Sticking to the plan even when the mood fades. It's saying, I am not a person who eats random cookies just because they exist. It's an identity statement.
You're checking the blueprint.
Does this cookie help build a house? No. Then it does go in.
Text overlay. Discipline is freedom from impulse.
I love that. It shifts the power right back to you.
Now, I want to try something different. We've talked about the theory. Let's actually do the work. We are going to do a guided exercise right now.
Let's do it. The ideal to action practice.
So wherever you are, unless you're driving, maybe keep your eyes open, but turn your focus inward. We're going to walk through 5 mental steps. I want you to actually do this in your head right now.
Step 1. Choose one word for your ideal. Just one. Is it calm, strong, kind, focused? Pick it now. Don't overthink it.
Got it. Step 2. Describe what that word looks like in behavior. Don't think about the feeling. Think about the movie of your life. If you're calm, what are you doing with your hands? What's your voice doing? Visualize it clearly.
Step 3. Choose one small daily action that proves it. Not a marathon. A small thing. Making the bed. Pausing before answering an email. Drinking a glass of water. Pick one thing you can do in the next 24 hours to prove to yourself that this is real.
Okay. Step 4. Choose one sentence of self-direction, a mantra.
And make it present tense. Not, I will try, but I am. I do not panic. I finish what I start. I listen before I speak.
And step 5. Remove one contradiction. What is one thing you need to stop doing today because it insults your new ideal?
Maybe it's deleting an app. Maybe it's throwing out the junk food. Maybe it's walking away from gossip. Remove the broken brick.
And let's close that with a commitment.
Say to yourself quietly, I am the architect of my character.
Text overlay. I am the architect.
I am the architect.
That feels powerful. It feels heavy, but in a good way.
It is, because it acknowledges responsibility. If the building falls down, you can't blame the weather. But if it stands tall, you know who built it.
Now, even with a plan, things go wrong. We're human. And sources point out some really common mistakes people make when they try to build character.
Yes, and we need to be realistic about this. It is not a straight line.
Okay, mistake first. Relying on willpower alone.
This is the classic Rookie mistake. We think, I'll just try really hard. But willpower is a battery. It runs out. If you're constantly fighting the urge to eat the cookie, eventually you will eat the cookie.
So what's the fix?
The fix is to use structure and environment. Don't just try not to eat the cookies. Don't buy the cookies. Don't just try to work, unplug the TV. Design the job site so the building is easier to build.
Make the good habit the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
Okay, mistake next. Ignoring the time lag.
Hanel is big on this. He teaches patience. The evidence of your senses takes time to catch up with your mind.
You hold the ideal of health for a week, look in the mirror, see no change, and then you say,
This doesn't work.
exactly. But you wouldn't pour a concrete foundation and then 10 minutes later say, well, the building isn't here yet. I guess I'll tear it all up.
The building takes time to rise.
There's that great story about the butterfly in the garden.
Oh, right. The boy watching the cocoon.
Yes. He watches it for days. He sees the struggle. The butterfly is pushing and ripping to get out of this tiny hole, and he thinks, it's stuck, it's struggling too much. He feels bad for it.
So he snips the cocoon to help it.
And it emerges, but with shriveled wings. It can never fly. It turns out that the struggle to get through that tiny opening was what forced the fluid from its body into its wings.
So the resistance created the strength.
The resistance was the creator of the strength. The struggle isn't a sign that it's going wrong. It's the process of the wings expanding.
Wow. Okay, mistake next. The double mind.
We touched on this. Trying to hold two opposing thoughts. You want to be brave, but you keep entertaining thoughts of fear. You want to be successful, but you keep telling yourself you're a victim.
You can't build a house on a fault line. You have to choose one. Evict the old tenant before the new one can move in.
Mistake next. Valuing opinions over principles.
This goes back to the Stoic idea of the mob. If you change your blueprint every time someone criticizes you, you'll end up with a house that has stairs leading nowhere and doors opening into walls.
You have to stop trying to impress people, especially people you don't even like.
Right.
Okay, mistake. Finally, giving up after one slip.
This is the perfectionist trap.
Yeah.
You drop one brick and you think, well, the whole wall is ruined. No. A broken brick does not ruin the building.
There's that incredible story about the founder of Honda.
Sodi for Honda. Talk about resilience.
Oh.
He built a factory to make piston rings, poured everything into it. Then World War II happens. A bomb flattens the factory.
That's a bad day.
A very bad day. But he rebuilt it. He even used the gasoline cans dropped by U.S. planes as raw materials for the new factory.
That is mental engineering, using the obstacle as fuel.
But then, an earthquake leveled the second factory.
He's kidding me. Seriously. But he didn't give up. He pivoted. He started putting little motors on bicycles, and that became Honda. If he'd stopped after the first bomb or the earthquake,
You wouldn't have the company today.
text overlay. Consistency creates reality.
Replace the brick and keep building. That's the lesson.
Consistency creates reality.
This has been a massive session. Let's try to bring it all together.
Mhm.
We've covered so much ground here, from 1912 New Thought to ancient Greece to modern Tokyo.
Okay, here's the summary of how the ideal builds character.
Gross.
The ideal is your chosen blueprint, not a wish. It is an active visualization.
Yeah.
Character is built by the repetition of choices, not by luck.
Next.
Drift happens when we follow our moods instead of our standards.
Thanks.
To change, you have to define the ideal in simple, powerful words.
Thank you.
And you must choose actions that match that ideal daily, even small things.
Next.
You have to ruthlessly remove the contradictions that cancel out your efforts. Clean the job site.
And finally, consistency creates a stable world within that eventually, inevitably, becomes the world without.
It's a powerful system, and if
Yeah.
you actually apply it, it really can change everything. But before we go, I have a question.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot about the individual, the I. I am the architect. I build my character.
Right, that's the foundation.
But none of us live on an island. We're building our skyscrapers in a crowded city. What happens when your blueprint clashes with someone else's? What happens when you're trying to be calm, but your boss is trying to be chaotic?
What happens when you have to build with other people?
Exactly.
That is the next frontier. You can't just be an architect in a vacuum. Next time, we explore Episode 8, Harmony in Relationships. We'll look at how your inner world affects everyone around you.
Text overlay.
Wow.
Next. Harmony and relationships.
And how to navigate the very complex architecture of human connection.
You won't want to miss that. It takes all of this and applies it to the people you love and the people you struggle with. Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist. And please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.